try to get certificate courses.
Yes.
Which is, expensive. Do you have any advice on doing that on a budget, or would you advise against it then?
Let's say I think if you're in a company, usually the company can pay for it. So then your investment is mostly on the time side. At least I've done most certificates are 100 or 200 euros. So I'm in general pro, even if I had to pay out of my own pockets. But yeah, I think can be also country related. And again, I think the best check is always to speak to HR recruiters or see the openings a little bit. So I'm in favor personally.
Okay. So, and if you maybe at the end, if you have any advice for good websites or other tips, you can put them in the chat.
Oh sure, yes, I'll do that.
Perfect. Okay, I look forward to seeing your examples.
Yeah. So those are very simple. So that's recently I'm learning front-end development. I haven't done really any of it. I knew really super basic stuff. So I was like, okay, which technology should I choose? I looked around. Mostly it comes down to 3 technologies. It's Vue, Angular, and React. Almost each blog post comparing them would say Vue is the simplest. I chose Vue, and so far I didn't regret the choice at all. Another one can be like, the employer is using Azure as cloud provider. AWS is the biggest one. Which one should I use? I think here you should make a consideration if you really want to run away from your employer or not. So I think if you want to run away, go for AWS just as a market leader. But if otherwise, just go with Azure. Why? Because basically your employer is already using it. So, probably your colleagues can teach you a few things. Your employer is paying for the cloud cost. You can do things that probably it's not so easy to do on your own free time. And it's a huge advantage when you're working. And in general, like when you're really fluent with something and you really want to master it, like what you should do is either find really an expert in the area to work together with that person, or with that employer to that extent, or or a book. So I think it's a bit of a repetition, but I think it deserves attention. So I think here always remember, like, picking the simplest or the most common tool is a safe choice. That's something I didn't expect when going into tech, but it's the best choice, because like when you took a common tool everybody's using and you can find a lot of documentation online, you can fix your problems in that way. It makes your life easier in the long term, and it's really important for your motivation. So like in a different perspective, you have, I called it the learning pyramid. Like, so in the beginning, just get a general understanding, get some experience. And here the main thing is really avoid making huge mistakes. Do not reinvent the wheel. And so avoid to do like this guy, getting in a really like uncomfortable situation eventually. So always keep that in check when you're starting something. Like if you feel you're not really comfortable with what you're doing, that's probably, you should kind of step back and say, okay, is this really what I should be learning, or in this way? The next part is like, you know what you want to do, but you do not know how. That's, I think, how I also spend most of my day at work. So here, you just Google, you use Stack Overflow to fix the problems. And then I think at some point you get a point when those resources also fall short. And that's a point that more or less either you're really doing something totally wrong, or probably you're quite proficient in it. And that's, say, a good point for employers. And otherwise you're, again, in the mastery league, and that's just if you want to be a specialist. So I'll share now at the end just a quick story. two stories. I had one. This was my first PC in university. It was a ThinkPad T500. It's almost 3 kilos. It's a very high-end hardware in 2008. So that's you would think, okay, why would you do that? But I kept it because first I liked it, and I was like, you know, I think it gave me a lot of opportunity to learn new things. So, you know, I learned some advanced Linux distribution to have it, you know, fast and to do what I wanted, but it caused accidents. And you know what an accident looks like is more or less like this. You end up with like completely black screen. I kind of freaked out the first few times, but over time you learn, and you can be good with it. And I thought, okay, that's, you know, I became sort of a hacker as a data scientist, new in the terminal, but probably I ended up as a backend developer like this guy. But nonetheless, was a great learning. Now,
I hate to disturb you, but we are running a little bit out of time. And we have a last question from the audience. So let me know when you're ready for it.
Okay, I have 1 minute and then I'm done. So then we have all the time for questions. So like the story in 2000, like in the last years, I joined this I-course for everyone. My motivation was just to do a computer vision project and meet some people. So I did that. I made friends. Then later became even a mentor in that bootcamp, teaching more people. And eventually, like I made a lot of friends. I ended up even in work projects with some of them. And with the community, I could really learn a lot. And, you know, I've always had second opinion on a lot of things. And that was also, like, I think for me, one of the best experiences of the last years. So the last part, overall, remember, tech is fun. And most of all, it's not stressing, like our friend John would say. But yes, that's the end of my presentation. If you want to get in touch for that, you can just add me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email here. So that's all. Question time. So what was the question?
Great, David. Thank you so much. I think this is super relevant for where a lot of people in our audience are today. Very good advice. It's actually something you just mentioned shortly from Liangju. He is asking how to find a mentor. What's the best way to find a mentor?
Yeah, I think first, like either you go with an established employer. So usually there it's easier to find people with few years experiences. So that's, I mean, let's say an easy step if you want to go that route. Otherwise, I think online, the main thing is just try with some people, you know, maybe they're sharing content, maybe, I don't know, sometimes students approach me from my old master saying, hey, what do you recommend there? And if you have a specific questions, I'm always willing to answer, you know, like, of course, if you ask, what are your insights in this, it's harder, but most people are nice, and, you know, just approach them on social media.
Very good advice. I think that's a good one. If you find someone who has the skills you think you need, then you can always reach out, right? And I think that's also the beauty of the tech community, that everyone's very willing to help. Thank you so much, David. You're a perfect example of this today. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and your insights with us today. Thank you for being here. We are going to continue with our next talk of today with you, who already logged in, I see. Hi, good to see you. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, welcome, and thanks for being here. So you're working as a data engineer, right? As a big data engineer, currently at DataWorks, but you've experience in banks, in government, in various environments, and you're going to share with us a little bit about the life of a data engineer today, or in data engineering, what is important nowadays.
Yeah, correct.
So with further ado, I'll give the floor to you, and enjoy.
Okay, cool, thanks. Let me just share my screen. Let me just do the presentation. So yeah, I want to talk to you about the what, where, and why for the data engineer of today. Everybody can see my screen, right? Because I don't have a second screen at me at the moment.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you already gave the introduction, so I'm skipping the fact that I work at Dataworks, and you can reach me at my Dataworks address. So if you have any questions, you can leave it at the end of the topic, or just email me. I'm going to talk about a bit about the data engineer and what self-built robots, RC cars, 3D printers actually have in common with a Tesla, and what does that mean for a data engineer. So to give an idea of what I'm talking about a RC car, a Joy car, and a Tesla, for the people who don't know what I'm talking about. To give a heads up what we think at Dataworks, what a data engineer is, here we have a nice quadrant that is set up by our management team. This is not a requirement to show, but I'm going to show you all of the things we expect people to know if you're working as in the field of a data engineer or data scientist, not specifically for Dataworks, but more general. To give an overhead on what types of engineering we have a data engineer, we have a machine learning engineer, and the data scientist. Now, these are all a bit overlapping, but as you can focus on the circle at the right bottom, that is the data engineer. So it covers a lot of things, what you have to know and what you have to do as a data engineer. So you have to know a little bit of software engineering, infra engineering, data ingesting, and processing. And there are a couple of levels in there in which you could grow in. So to give an heads up, what is the stack? For example, in the development stack, you have to know a programming language, you have to know an OS knowledge. Specifically in the terminal, I heard that during the last topic. Get used to getting in a terminal. Not that it's fun, but you have to do it. Get to know what Git is. Use GitLab, GitHub, or Bitbucket, or something similar. Just get to know what Git is. Get your head in databases, specifically what the theory of databases is, because that is quite lacking with some people. And also problem solving on databases. What happens if your database collapses? What do you do? What is your disaster recovery? APIs for REST, for example, authentication on APIs, it's a hard one. Security, everybody knows that the S in IoT stands for security. So if you want the field to focus on, dive into security, because that's the field that is not actually being promoted now. Also testing, unit testing, integration testing, functional testing, all related to testing, all very important, but not a primary focus if you're a data engineer. CI/CD, which stands for continuous integration, continuous delivery, or continuous deployment, depends on what you're looking at. And design and development principles. Also for infrastructure, you also have to know a programming language, not an actual programming language as of such that you have to program things. You have to program things in infrastructure. Going to talk about that, but it's more like that you know what you have to do when encountering scripts or encountering things as infra as code. Little bit of OS knowledge. You want to know what, where, and how. Also in the terminal. Still Git. Now comes in the hard part, the networking, proxy caching, load balancer, and such. I'm not going to talk about subnetting because that is a whole different story, and I don't want to dive into that. We love a little bit of web servers, infra as code, as I just said. This ties very neatly into Git. So here, CI/CD again on the infrastructure part. Container and management, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Logging, which you want to know if you're running into problems or not running into problems. Then you want to know why are you not running into problems. Trust me, you are going to run into problems. And as a more service-oriented, data-oriented architecture, those are more the theory to dive into. If you ask me, these are the things I would promote. Beneath those lists, I put a couple of links. I like the visual aspect of roadmap on the SH on DevOps and on backend. And here you'll see more about these topics and which products you actually have to use. For me, I'm going to focus on a bit of CI/CD, infra as code, and container management. To get in the head, you are not Google, at least not yet. Let's hope everybody's going to get as rich as Google, but don't jump into cargo code because you don't want cargo code. To give a story about cargo code is when you're trying to do a thing that a other party has been doing for a while and expecting the same results. As you can see in the picture here, this is a native people from the southern of America. and they were being visited by dropships and by helicopters, which provided them with supplies. But as any good things, all good things must come to an end. So the supplies didn't come at a point, and they didn't understand why. So they tried to build airplanes or helicopters or something like that, but they didn't have the same result, because as you can see, there's no way this thing will fly, and the same would apply to you. So no cargo cult. And if you look into new tech, please unfat that. What I mean with unfat is understand what your problem is, enumerate multiple solutions, read a paper if there's one. It doesn't matter if it's a white paper or a more explorative paper, just read the paper. Know the historical context of the solution you're reading about. It's always nice to know if something has just launched or has a 10-year experience in it. Think about the advantage and the disadvantage on the solution, because it might be the problem, it might be the solution that will fix all your problems, but if it costs around $1 million a month, don't be looking at your management to pay that. And also think, does the solution still fits the problem? I've run into a couple of situations that if I look better at the problem, which was displayed at the end, at the beginning of the project, then it would be clear that the solution we're now picking is not the best solution, but it's more of a choice to a choice that you pick the smallest thing that is the cheapest, or the biggest thing, but that doesn't fill all the pictures. You probably get what I'm getting at. So back to the subject, CI/CD, why you would need it. So CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery, or continuous deployment. What this actually means is continuous testing and checking. On the integration part, continuous delivery means continuous accountability. So you know, if you have a process flow which delivers a application in the right way on the right time, then you know that you have a continuous accountability and a good story for your manager to know that you're not sleeping. Your process is running, even if you're sleeping. And that also ties into the continuous deployment, that you know that you have continuous uptime. If you don't know what uptime is very important, as it seems. So give an overview of what CI/CD actually is. This is a picture from GitLab. I use GitLab a lot for my personal projects, but also for my professional projects. And here you'll see what you can do with continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. What this actually mean is from code till an actual application with one press of a button, and that's the goal you want to strive to. So moving on. If you have an application, where to put it, why you want infra as code. What I mean with infra as code is, in this example, this is a simple picture. I couldn't make it any simpler. With every button, with every wizard you have to run, it's going to take time, and you don't want that. What you want is, from a central point, you want to have one central code base which runs all of your databases, all of your structure, all of your applications, all of your future things. So you don't want that. You want a simple way to promote all your environment. So that is what you do with infra as code. To get a head up on Docker and management, when you have that. Maybe you don't know the term works on my machine. At a point of time, someone said, all right, it doesn't work with you, works on my machine. Well, then we'll ship your machine. That's actually what I've been doing with Docker, because if you run a Docker container, then you're actually making a machine to give a visual heads up on what it's actually doing. This is your traditional deployment on what an app was doing on bare metal. For example, you have your operation hardware, and on top of that, you run your app. That moved to a virtual machine, which runs a hypervisor. It's still a bit of overhead, and you have to run all of the wizard processes for the virtual machine, because you have an overhead of a operating system and your library is installed. Now with Docker, that is simplified, because you still have your Docker runtime and your operating system on the hardware, but because you're running a container, all of your application is bundled with your binaries and with your library. So that is really easy to ship your actual machine without shipping your actual machine. But that's cool. So what does this mean for Teslas? How do they compare with RC cars? Well, I took a picture of a guy who's working with Ford, and he pulled a Tesla Model 3 to the bare minimum, as you can see behind him in this picture, and he said it's way too complex to as a car. And I read the report, and I couldn't agree more. The reason I couldn't agree more, because actually a Tesla is actually a iPad on wheels. And that's not a quote from me. That's a quote from an older colleague who is in automotive industry, and that's the way how Tesla moves, and that's the way how Tesla operates. Actually, they don't care about the platform; they just care about shipping cars. For example, that's not a traditional way of thinking for if you're building cars. For example, if you have an older car, a Renault, for example, Renault was if you want to buy a Renault and they build the Renault, they always have a certain set of Renaults available. Let's say they publish or they make a 50,000 Renaults 5, for example. They know that a certain percentage will fail, so they make a separate set of Renaults to create to supply you with repair parts. Tesla doesn't do that. Tesla just puts in your car what they have readily available. So if in a Tesla your light will break and you have still an older light, it will get replaced on what they have on the shelf. So that's more like an iPad thought. I mean, if you're still running with an iPad 1, congrats, but you're not running the newest hardware. You have to replace that. And the same will happen with Tesla. If you don't run a newest Tesla platform, then you will get left behind. So that's on Tesla, but how does that compare to an RC car? Well, we have in DataWorks, we have an RC car. Does it work? Yeah, it works, kinda. It works. It works like it should. We have a camera on top of it, and it can do cool spins. And we have a camera that follows a certain line. I had a picture. I had a movie, but you have to see it for on our site. It actually follows the lines. So how does this compare to a Tesla then? This isn't the same. Well, it kind of is. It's just a matter of process. What you're actually doing is building up to skill. I have a Joy car for this instance to compare it with, but what you're actually doing is programming the Joy car to do things, and it's what I said. It's a matter of skill to use that skill to upskill that part to make it fit a Tesla, and that's what you do with CI/CD, for example, or infra as code. You don't change your code, you're changing the environment, and that's what you do as a data engineer. You make it running at a small scale, and you're building up to a larger scale. To give an example, this is actually what I was doing with my Joy car to give a visual introspection. But if you look into what the code is actually doing, this is the part what I was actually doing at the back end. So I was actually programming it to do something, and I was pushing that to the car. So this is actually also how you can design a Tesla. It's not the actual way to design a Tesla. Trust me, they're much more complicated. But this is something you can scale up to. I mean, a Joy car is like this. Tesla is much bigger, but it's all about starting small, getting up to what you're doing for the future. So this is actually the message what I'm trying to push to you. If you're starting something, if you're building something to a project, don't think that you have to take into account everything what's up there. Just start small. Just get ready for the basics, what I've told you, and then you'll be, then what I said, it's just a matter of skill. I tried to make it as compact as possible. I had a lot more slides I wasn't going to show you, but as we're running late, I want to dive into the question and answer. Are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Joep, and very great presentation, super concise, but really full of information, I think, for everyone. If you do have any questions for you, we didn't get anyone in the Q&A, people saying thank you for the presentation, which is, of course, also very nice to send to you. but it looks like everything was super clear. And of course, people know how to reach you on your email address, which is where I think they can find you for follow-up questions. And also, if you want to stay a little bit longer in the chat, maybe people need some time to process, and we'll think of a question over time, and they can ask it to you in the chat box.
Sure.
But for now, thank you so much for this super great presentation. It was very exciting, and yeah, thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, no problem, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I'd gladly bring to the stage our next speaker, Georgie. You can turn on your microphone and your camera if you will. Giorgio, sorry. Hi, hello, hi, good to see you.
How are you? Great to see you.
I'm good. And how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. How are you doing yourself?
Yes, good. I saw you were with us for a while. Did you see some of the previous presentations?
Absolutely, and I enjoyed it a lot. And it kind of gave me a good opportunity to will in my story. So this is it's going to be promising.
Great. Well, for everyone here, you can already see Giorgio is working with Philips. And he's going to talk with us about the next generation AI professionals and about developing a T-shaped profile. It's something that was mentioned yesterday already, and that is super important, I think, nowadays. But I'm sure Giorgio will elaborate on that. So I'm going to give the floor to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christophe. First of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak at this occasion. And when we saw the background that these are aspiring tech professionals, we thought it would be a great opportunity to give you an overview of what is happening in Philips, and especially for AI professionals. And what kind of professionals are we? So I decided to give that story. So a quick background, my name is Giorgio Moses. I lead a team called Next Generation AI and Data, part of the digital division. And my background is in clinical epidemiology, but I've done many aspects of AI. And the story I would tell today is really about the heroes in our company working on AI and operationalizing AI. Right. So to give you a bit of background, and many of you may know, Philips is transformed into a health tech company. And when you work in Philips, you absolutely know what we stand for and what we do. We really want to touch the life of 2.5 billion people by 2030. It is a very interesting place to work because it's diverse, it's international, and there are many aspects of healthcare that we touch. And one of the aspects that I will speak about is specifically for us in the AI community is the responsibility towards the things that we build and how we deploy them in society, right? So here are the trends that really drive Philips, right? Is the increase of chronic diseases in the world. We see a lot of pressure on healthcare systems to perform better, but at the same time lowering their costs. And we're also seeing that we as patients or as healthy people, we become more increasingly interested in our health, and we need tools to do that. So this whole digital transformation is touching upon all the aspects of healthcare, the patients, the professionals, and the technology that comes with it. But the last few months, I would say last year, as you may know, COVID really changed a lot of the stuff that we were doing and actually accelerated some of the things that are important for us as an AI community. One is the move to digital. No need to elaborate too much on that. Everything is going digital. But what you're seeing in care is the virtualization of care, where you would specifically need to see your doctor. Now the seeing doesn't have to be face-to-face. It could be in different forms. And we're also seeing more rapid innovation, where it would take years for certain things to be possible to put on the market. Now, when the pressure is on, we see that some of these hypotheses that we have that it cannot be quicker, we just see that it's happening. But you also see a lot of regulation that comes with, especially in our field, with data and with privacy and some of the challenges that comes with dealing with data platforms, and also related, the way that health is financed, the reimbursement also is shifting towards different types of business models. Now, this context is very important because when we look at how we want to help our customers, when they ask us for solutions, they do not ask for, like, I want an AI or machine learning or deep neural network. They want to have better outcomes, improve patient experience, improve staff experience, and at a lower cost. And that is pretty much the starting point of how we start to look at this. Now, of course, this is all Philips, but I would like to zoom into the AI community. And the first thing to do in AI community is how we define AI in our company, because it's of course a buzzword and everybody is doing AI, but for us, it really means the use of data science techniques. And very important, always designed by people. We will get to that later, but designed by people and also inspired by intelligent behavior. And we're not doing that just for showing great demos. This is for creating solutions and systems that really makes an impact at the point of care. So it helps the doctors or the patients to reason, act, and adapt. Typically, we apply AI in complex situations, but typically for tasks that are pretty much repetitive in nature. Now, this is our current way of looking at AI. But when you look at our people, my colleagues, and I tried to create this analysis for you, like what kind of people are we actually? And this is where the T-shape comes in. And the T-shapes, the first part of the T-shape is pretty much the vertical, where we have people with deep knowledge in data. So you have your typical data scientists, data engineer, machine learning engineers, and also deep knowledge in the application of AI techniques and technology. But also what comes with that is the context. So having deep knowledge in data and modeling doesn't really cut the whole chase in this case. So in collaboration with people who may have that deep knowledge in the clinical domain is where we create the depth of knowledge. And then we create AI-enabled solutions, pretty much to empower the people that use them, make sure that it's adapted to context. I believe one of the previous speakers talked about learning systems or continuous learning system. This is exactly why we need to adapt to situations once you operationalize the AI. And for us in healthcare, it's super important that these things are integrated in the workflows and the daily environments of the doctors. So as you can see, AI is not just technology. Once you operationalize it, you have to figure out ways to understand your customer needs, understand their workflow, and understand how your AI will transform the workflow so that you can enable that transformation that is required. So it goes broader than just deep technical skill, but also broad organization skills, consulting skills, where you would need effective communication, you would need analytic reasoning, and that's where the T comes in. Now, what do we as AI community do if we are a T-shaped team? Well, here's another part of it. We are committed to do and deliver responsible AI. And that comes with a couple of principles that we adhere to. Security, very important. Privacy. No need to zoom into this because for us as a community, these things should be obvious, but it's there to make sure that we do not skip any of these important steps to make sure that how our AI is really implemented is responsible and it is really addressing health and well-being of all people, always human oversight. So, and as part of the AI community, I think we should be selling this story more, that AI is not here to replace humans, but really to enhance them. And that story is important for the adoption and the implementation, because when it comes to the robustness, it usually comes back to how well it's organized, how well is it built. And when it comes to fairness and avoiding bias and discrimination, there needs to be some level of transparency of how these models are built and that you can communicate them not only in the AI community where we pretty much understand each other, but the world outside where they may not have the, let's say, the dialect that we speak in the AI community. So all these are part of the skill set that you would need to really operationalize AI. Okay, now we use AI for different types of things. Intelligent filtering of information, enabling early intervention, support ICU, enabling remote patient monitoring. And when I was creating these slides, I thought, you know what, I would bring you through a journey of what we call the care continuum. And if you want to see more of our AI applications, if you Google Philips AI-enabled solution, I'm sure you will end up at our page where you can read more. But the way I wanted to tell this story, especially for T-shaped profile AI professionals, is through what we call the care continuum. So if you look at our customer base, it runs from people being healthy, being in the prevention space, diagnosis, treatment, and home care. And with the transformation of the healthcare system, you could imagine there's a tremendous amount of data that comes available that enables us to create these actionable insights for precision health. So how does that work for AI professionals, and what types of problems do we solve for our business? Take this view. This is a helicopter view where we have population health management and quite a bit of operational data on patient, be it in a remote patient monitoring setting. And here we apply advanced analytics to segment the population and intervene at the right place at the right time, so that you capture the right patient to make sure that you get to the right outcome eventually. So this is one part of application. But let's take a high-risk patient and being in an ambulance where we have connected care to enhance the point of care diagnostics. And what happens here is that you have AI to not only support the access to information, but it gives insight at the right place at the right time. So this is really about understanding the workflow in very utmost depth, because you have to provide the right information at the right time in the right format to invoke the right action to save this patient's life. This is more towards next generation. The vision of having all data digitized and having an in-silicon intelligence with expert knowledge enables us to create what we call a digital twin concept. The same idea is also true for all our wearables, machines, etc., where you will have a digital twin of an object. Now, what does that enable us? Now, again, the same use case. We have this helicopter view, the patient in the ambulance. Now, let's say the patient is in operation. This is where we're heading with guided therapy, where we use real-time images, smart catheters, robotics, and augmented reality to really help the doctor to guide the therapy that is being applied. So here you're going into prescriptive analytics and guiding systems to support doctors. This is another view of still the patient journey being at ICU, where we have intelligent software that really makes an impact. Like what you can see here, we have over 20% of hospital mortality that is reduced, including readmission, ICU readmission in COVID time. These are very important intelligent system that helps the care system to manage the tremendous pressure that is on the healthcare system now. Where we also see lots of intelligence is in what we call e-care manager, where this is helping to with the discharge of patients with intelligence discharge scores and Sentry scores. And eventually, we're also looking at the delivering of predictive care at the patient, so in the patient's home. And also, not to forget, Philips is also very well positioned in personal health And what you're seeing here is what 15 years ago used to be a toothbrush, but now you're really buying into personal health, where it's not just a toothbrush, but really an intelligent system that helps people to manage their personal health behavior with all kinds of perks and incentives and feedback mechanism to improve people's personal health. So quite a lot there, right? And when you zoom out as a professional in a company like Philips, we do see, and we have to help to identify these dramatic opportunities to improve healthcare by turning our raw information, raw data into actionable insight using these AI approaches. Many touch points already exist, but the leap forward is in seamless integration and really having a specific focus in the clinical workflow, whether it's disease specific or improving the operation, or whether it's in improving the staff experience. Also very important is working with principles, right? When it comes to data, that the moral compass of AI is definitely not in the data and in the algorithm, but the people that are creating it. We put the intelligence in artificial intelligence, right? So it is very important, especially when I look at my colleague, that you're driven by these principles when you're creating these AI, because that helps the acceptance and the adoption of this. So the T-shaped professionals really thrive, especially in an organization like ours, and T-shaped teams also thrive. So I would like to leave it at that, and maybe, or hopefully, there are some questions that we can dive deeper into. But again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Giorgio. That was a great presentation. And we do have some questions. This is, I think, quite a technical question. K-maps, can they be more modernized or made more advanced than they are now? And what is the most efficient way to collect data? It's a question from Game.
I missed the first part of the question. Could you repeat, please?
Whether K-maps can be can be modernized or made more advanced than they are now.
K-maps.
K-maps. I think it's Carno maps.
Oh, K-maps. Ah.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not a techie.
Yes, absolutely. You know, when it comes to data, in general, the biggest challenge, and to give you a view of the big leap that we need to make with data, is what I would call data liquidity. Like data doesn't flow. It doesn't flow from one place to the other. It's not that easy, and that has to do with the legal frameworks and the red tapes that are surrounded data. So especially in healthcare, and probably rightfully so. So instead of putting a lot of effort in aggregation, it's also good to look at ways of decentralizing algorithms, like in federated learning, and that is part of our view in this as well. Like there needs to be a plurality of approaching data in this case. So I would approach it that way if I would answer this question. I hope that I answered the question, actually.
I hope so too, but I'm sure otherwise we'll hear from Gamer. And we have another question from Alex, which is a bit of more of an ethical question, I guess. And his question is about using more and more AI in products, for example, a toothbrush. Where's the line between what's needed and what makes the product better, and what just makes it more advanced and selling a new product? That's actually his question. Is it based on science, or is it trying to sell a new product?
Very, very good question. So, in Philips, we are very much customer focused. So we know a lot about our customers. As a researcher, right, I've done a lot of ethnographic research where I'm really going to patients and understanding what the issues are and interviewing. And that is also part of our personal health journey, like really looking at what is the added value that we can bring to the customer. And specifically in oral health, it's really about making a transformation from just having a tool to brush to being aware of dental health and how important that is. And many people do not realize, and that's part of, having what we call hybrid intelligence. You and the system become more intelligent in the sense that that toothbrush will give you lots of insight in oral hygiene and how that is related to cardiovascular disease and the risk of that. It will help you with the continuation of managing your dental health. And these are all part of insights. That's why when you will have it on the market, you will see the adoption, because it's based on those insights that are well verified and not just an idea like, hey, this is a great idea, let's build it and just push it out.
Right. That's what you do as well, right? The combination of research and new products. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. I think that's a great answer. I hope it satisfies Alex. Thank you. Just a last question from my side for the people in the audience. There's a lot of people here wanting to kickstart their career in tech. Do you have any advice for them to start their career in the beginning of their career?
Absolutely. So, being in an AI world is almost a lifestyle. And part of that lifestyle has to do with lifelong learning. I've been in AI for 20 years, and the types of programming language I was mastering 20 years ago are not the same now. So it is important to keep up with what is going on in the field by reading a lot and having these kind of engagement, having a good network of your collective intelligence of what you want to learn. That's part of it. Second part is the mastery of something for your T-shape, like making sure you're good at something, whether you have a sound mathematical background, you're good in linear algebra, or you have good programming skills in Python. It's good to have that base to grow your career and branch out. And that branching out has to do with start to work in teams. And not being the pro in everything, because that will be too much. But working in team is important, because AI is really a team sport, especially if you're playing at the Champions League, like my colleagues. Is really a team sport. So it's important to develop those kind of skills to work with other people and see how you can collectively create stuff. So that would be my career advice, like depth, but also breadth and working in teams. Very important.
I think that's great advice for not just for people in tech, but for everyone starting their career, but yes, in this field as well. And thank you for contributing to everyone's learning process. That's very much appreciated by us, and I'm sure by the audience as well. So thank you for being with us today, Jojo.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yes, I hope you're all doing very well still in the chat. We're almost halfway the second day of our virtual summit. I hope you're still enjoying yourselves. I think we're getting a lot of different insights and a lot of information. If you want to make any comments in the chat or in the Q&A, feel free and stay with us, because we are now moving on to our presentation by Alexandra Vargas. You can turn on your yes, good to see that you're still here, Gajan. Hi Alex, hello.
Hi Cristela, can you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Perfect.
Great background as well.
Thank you. Okay, let me try to share my screen. I think this one.
Yeah, so just a short introduction for everyone. Oh yeah, you already see it. Alexandra is a front-end web developer, and she's going to share some of her insights today in this from this specialism. So we've seen data engineering, we've seen AI, and now really excited about to hear more about your story, Alexandra. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm really excited to be here. Let's just start with the title of this talk. I was trying to come with a title that was more engaging, but this is what I found. Life as a front-end web developer, an approach using black boxes to build things. This sounds very abstract, but bear with me, because actually what I would like to have or to achieve today with all of you is to help you to navigate this front-end developer world. But a little bit, let's start with a little bit of myself. My name is Alexa. I have been working as a front-end developer for more than 7 years. I really like to build things that helps people's life. This is kind of like my mantra. And I think, yeah, this is what keeps me today still in this world. And I work in a company called Sudoku until this week. And next week, I will start in another company called Grafana. So it's a transitioning time for me, and I'm really excited for that. But let's begin with what exactly does it mean to be a front-end developer? Because I think you can find many definitions on the web, but I will go for the most simple one. The first one is, or the one that I came in is, it's people who always work in the client side. Because I will be focusing in web, I mean in the browser. So if you go to a website, and then in this website you interact with images, buttons, you see text, this is made with front-end technologies. And when you refer to like front-end, you will always hear these like technologies that we use there, like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I will give a really basic kind of introduction of this. It's not going to be long, I hope. But I want just to, we all of us are in the same kind of like baseline. So let's do an analogy. I really love cats. So imagine that HTML is like the bones of a cat, so support the whole cat. CSS is like the skin, is what makes the cat really pretty. And JavaScript is everything that is related with behaviors. So if the cat walks, moves, meow, everything, it's kind of like interaction. This is with JavaScript. If we go into an example, if we go, for example, into the website of the European Leadership University, if we remove every CSS and JavaScript, this is what we'll see. So it's just content, it's just the representation in terms of like HTML is HTML tags. And what we see here is representation of data. So for example, these are lists, so it's an order list, buttons, and we also see some text and like, yeah, images. If we go and want to make this website more pretty, what they did is like they apply some CSS, and CSS are just rules that we apply to these HTML tags. So we just put some like, okay, let's maybe make this button red, maybe let's put some background, and yeah, it's more like to make it pretty. And if we go into JavaScript, when I was exploring this website, what I saw is like they were using some specific JavaScript like plugins to open the menu and like this kind of interaction. You could achieve this in other ways, but this is the way that they decided to do it. And this is the first thing that I have to say is like, if you are in coding, or like if you are a programmer, coding is a craft, means that you have many ways to achieve the same thing. So there is no like one size fits all, and this is something that we will see today. So this sounds really simple, right? So it's just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If I learn this, I am a front-end developer. But these days, when I was preparing this talk, I kind of like was exploring in 2021, what does it mean to be a front-end developer? What kind of skills do we need to have to be a front-end developer? So I did my investigation and I found these amazing roadmaps. One is from Front-End Master. And what you see is like a roadmap of what kind of skills you need to be a front-end developer. So kind of like a path that you can follow. And the first thing that you can notice is like, it can be very heavy. Like you have a lot of things, not just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but there is many things that are happening here. And why this is like this in 2021, it's because websites and platforms on the web have evolved really. So yes, we have all of this. But let's go to another one. I really love this one because it's the navigation, or like, yeah, you can visualize like nicer what you need to learn. So in this case, they were like, there is some kind of like a path that all of people who are working in the web should know, that is related with HTTP, what is a domain name, and then you go to HTML, CSS, and it's very, very, very long. And this is the most important part, I think. So when I saw this, I immediately had this kind of face like, oh, okay, it seems a lot. It can be really overwhelming. And here I want to share with you a personal story. 8 years or 9 years ago, when I was at university, I really thought that programming was not for me. I thought that it was only for smart people. Like I was not into that. And I was really afraid of joining into this world. But something that actually happens is like life happens, and I started to work in a project. And in this project, what I did was a simple website for like using really, really basic technologies for a client. And when the client he saw this website, he was really happy, and he was truly amazed by the fact that this website will help him with his business. In that specific point, I understood that technology, it's just kind of like the tool to make people's life easier. And even though you can see all of this, that can be a lot, what we always have to be kind of like aware is that we are creating for people. So what I wanted today with you to share is, even though it seems a lot, there is a way that we can navigate this. So the question that I always get is when I will be ready. Should I learn all of this before even getting my first job? And the answer is depends. Depends what for you means the ready. Ready for getting a job, ready for starting your own like business and like creating your tools. What means the ready? But for all of the ready goals, we should always focus in the learning the basics. So a lot of people have this kind of like learning path that goes first into frameworks in JavaScript with React, Angular, Vue, and it can be, it's kind of like, it's okay because you can quickly create things, but if you forget the basics, it's going to be harder in the future to understand complex things. And actually for me, this was the case. When before learning JavaScript, I was doing Angular.js. And I really didn't understand too much. I was just like going to Stack Overflow, Googling things, copying and pasting. And when things get really heavy, like when things were not working, I struggle a lot because basics were not clear. And I think this is my first thing. Even like you will feel ready in one point of your life, yes, but first try to learn the basics and trying to understand semantics in HTML and trying to understand actually how the web works. And yeah, I think this can be really helpful. And also always try to keep this question in your daily life. And this is actually what I do in my daily life, is like what I am trying to solve. There is a trap when you are in this world and is going into really technical things just for the purpose of creating amazing technology and code. And like, it's kind of okay if you are like super passionate about it, but always think that we are solving problems for people, and this will help you to move and to achieve things. So my advice will be to always ask this question. And the second and the third, actually, it's what is the type of job that you are doing? If you are in the front-end developer world, you might be working or you might be doing this kind of jobs. I kind of like define it into 4. It's really broad categories. It can be applied. You can be working all of them or just in few, but let's say that you are maybe going to work in one of them for sure. And the first one is related with styling. So you could be working in a project that it's heavily using CSS. And then you can find these kind of like amazing animations like this one that you could you could interact with them. And actually this one won a prize because of the animation. It's built with CSS and JavaScript. It's very cool. Or you could be doing layout. So everything that you put like in your web, like some sort of like HTML components, then you see here React, Angular, Vue, as well as a frameworks when you have to do like different things. In this case, I'm showing the platform that I used to work in the Sudoku that is for students. And here, for example, we have this part here is a component that is a sidebar, but also we have here the tiles for the thumbnails. Yeah, a lot of things are happening in this page. But also you can be working with state management. So what I mean in, for example, in a platform can be like, is it state in, sometimes we need to keep the track of the state that we are like the website is having. So for example, if you, sorry, if you, in my case, if I want to add this course, if you see this button is changing, it's like changing the color, is changing the text. These kind of things, we need to keep it somewhere. And frequently we could use, depending on the framework, if you're using a framework, you could use native solutions, or you could use libraries like Redux, Movex, Vuex. And I am mentioning just a lot of things because, yeah, it's a lot of out there. But also you could be working with asynchronous like calls. So if you are in the front end, when I was saying at the beginning, you are working in the client side, but with the client side, you are kind of limited. You sometimes need to go to the server and tell the server, hey, give me some data, or yeah, I don't know, I need some login, so I need to verify this user is authenticated or not. So these kind of things, you should be able to know how to work with them. And what happens if the server is down? How do you handle errors? So this is the type of work that you will be doing here. Majority of the time, you could be doing just only this, or only just like layout things without any interaction with the state. But in some products, you will do everything, maybe not that much the animations. And here is when you can be really overwhelmed because it looks like a lot. So today I wanted to share with you how I have been navigating this world that is very fast-paced. And I want to introduce you to, probably you already know if you are studying computer science, is the concept of a black box. So a black box is just a system, a library, a framework, anything that you don't know what is the internal, like how it was built. But you know, if you give an input, it's always going to give you an output. Inside, there is magic happening. And you really don't care what is happening inside. You just know that input give you an output. Yesterday, I did this example and to explain to you what I mean by a black box and how I use them. I found this library called Anime.js, and this is a library that just helps you to animate things. In my case, I want to animate this box. It's just a normal div with some like text inside in HTML. And if I give this input, I can't always, but I gave this input reading the documentation, and then I got this output. I have no idea how they created this Anime.js or how was the approach that they took, but I know that I can use it by reading the documentation, by just going to the examples. And this is kind of like a black box for me. Anime.js is a black box for me. I know the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then with that, I can build on top, building kind of like a layer of abstraction. And this is my layer of abstraction. So I thought, okay, I think every single day I tend to work with black boxes because, for example, I work with React.js, but I have like no idea how React was implemented. I know how to use it. I know some sort of like kind of like internal implementations, but really few. Sometimes I need to know, but majority of the times, no. So why it's important to have these kind of like black boxes in our heads? I think because of this. So if we have this front-end world being so like kind of like fast-paced and moving so fast, we really need to help our brains to navigate through that. So we really need to understand that these black boxes can help us to build things without knowing everything. So let me just 1 second here. So, for example, when I was thinking in black boxes, I thought, what if we extend this concept that is very like technical into knowledge? What if we say, for example, I want to learn HTML, but I have no idea, so it's a completely black box. But as soon as I start digging in, then I can not compete, like I can kind of like transform this black box into a green box. And it's kind of like saying to my brain that I know at least some sort of the like implementation or like how to use these specific black box. And if we extend this into more knowledge, we could see that actually we could build things using these black boxes. So we could learn, for example, a little bit of UX. We could learn a little bit of JavaScript, how Agile works, Git, React, how actually to work in a team. And then with that, we can build different products. Because if you are going to take something from this talk today, is you don't need to know everything. You just need to know the basics, do a lot of like practicing projects, and always keep in mind what you are trying to solve, and then just go and build things. And that's it, actually. If you have any questions, let me know.
Amazing, Alexandra. Thank you so much. It's so great to see the examples that you used from your website and Hack Your Tech Career. That was great of course, to see. And I think it's also really reassuring. We always get a lot of questions from the audience, like, should I learn this tool or should I do that tool? Or I know this one, but I don't know that one. And I think it's really reassuring for everyone that you don't have to know everything. So thank you. That was super insightful. I'll quickly, I'm just gonna, I'm looking at the time, so we'll just take one question from the audience. One thing before that, some people asked whether you can share some of your presentation, for example, the link for the roadmaps and the diagram that you used in the beginning. Maybe you can share something in the chat, or you can send it to us and we'll make sure we share it with the participants.
I will share the slides. I think in the slides they can click and then, yeah.
Perfect. That would be really great. So for everyone here, we'll share that with you. And then a question from someone: What would you recommend for someone who is looking for a junior front-end developer position? Do you need a boot camp, or can you be self-taught with a decent portfolio? So how important is actually the official education?
Yeah, that actually is a very interesting question. In the past, actually, I was helping in a mentoring program for people who wanted to switch careers. And in our case, we were kind of like running a short bootcamp of 3 days. And then the process was to building a portfolio. So if you ask me, my personal opinion will be, yes, you could be getting a job as a junior if you have a decent portfolio, but I would advise you to always join communities. The best way that you can actually get in touch with people who are in the industry is joining the communities. So if you are, for example, in the front-end world, just join meetups, try to meet with people, try to have mentors. They're always the ones who will give you kind of like an opportunity, or like they always will give you some sort of advices like, hey, maybe here you are not showing the best skills that you have. So my advice will be join communities, try to continue working on like doing more projects. And if you can do volunteering as well, this will be amazing, because when you do that, you are already adding value and you are practicing. So I think, yeah.
I think that's great advice for everyone here. Thank you so much, Alexandra. There's a couple of more small questions in the chat and in the Q&A. If you have the time and can stick around to answer, great. Okay, thank you. So that's really nice for everyone here. And thank you for being here again. That was really good. So I'm now gonna we're halfway through our second day of the summit. We are moving to our next presentation, but first I would like to give the floor to my colleague Lara, who's my co-host for today. I'll still be here talking to you guys in the chat and the Q&A, but I'll wave goodbye for now and gonna enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Thank you, Christella, and of course, thank you to the speakers so far, and of course, you, the audience. You may have just joined us, you may have been here all day, you may have been here both yesterday and today, but I'm curious to hear a little bit what you found interesting so far. So what has been one takeaway or something you learned, perhaps something that struck you from any of the sessions that you've listened to? Feel free to share that with us in the chat. Now it's my turn to introduce the next speaker. We're already at the final hours of day 2 of the summit. Yesterday we spoke with René Malone from Utility to hear more about recruitment and taking back control of your application process. Today we'll hear more from the technical side at Utility from Henk-Jan Kastermans, who will be, here he is, who is a technical consultant at Utility and will tell us all about being or becoming a full stack developer. So exactly what that means and how to become one, Henk-Jan hopefully can tell us. Thank you, Henk-Jan. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm here at a special location. I'm currently at the customer, and what would be more greater than eating a pizza that comes out of the factory where you program the software for? So that's actually what I'm doing, and I wanted to share that with you guys because I think that's pretty cool. Behind me is the factory, and yeah, currently I'm on assignment, and well, we decided to end the day with a pizza, so I would recommend you guys also to slide a pizza into the oven, because it is a good time for eating pizza, and software engineers love pizza. So, but enough about pizza. Let's talk about full stack development. Yes, so I introduced myself already. My name is Henk-Jan. I work at Utility as a software developer. I've been a software developer already for 21 years, and of which 6 years at Utility. And I would like to tell you something about being a full stack developer and how to become one. So that would be really cool. So let's begin. Let's first talk a little bit about the company I work for. Utility, we are in high-tech manufacturing. And it's also the reason why I'm here. Right? This is high-tech manufacturing. It's not just a buzzword. It's behind me, and this is in the food industry. We are a company in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven, and we have a focus on data science, DevOps engineering, and software development. And that is basically the most, the three pillars of our company. So we are truly a high-tech company that work also for high-tech companies. We have a true engineering mentality, meaning building stuff. That's what we like, and we like to do that in like a multidisciplinary teams. So we work together with our customers. We work with multidisciplinary teams, like we have the data scientists, the software engineers, the system engineers, the customers, extra knowledge. If we need knowledge on agriculture, we get people from agriculture. So truly multidisciplinary. And yeah, we really are innovative. So we have a lot of these are basically our customers. We have the big guys, which are ASML and Philips and Signify, and we also have smaller companies that we work for, like Syngenta or AMF or Plucon. And these companies, they are not like the big ASMLs or NXPs of these worlds, but they truly drive innovation. There's a lot of innovation happening in these companies. And that's why we like to be there in these companies. These are typically projects that we do. You see it already: data science, manufacturing, here the pizzas, behind me also, data mining, and agriculture. You would say agriculture, is there innovation? Yes, there's a lot of innovation. Agriculture is really changing the coming years, and robotics and data science will play an important part, and that's why we are there. So, but that's enough about us. Let's talk about the subject. Full stack software developer. Full stack software developers are really hot. It is much asked in the jobs applications. They ask for full stack developers, and yeah, you might wonder, it's like, okay, what's that, and what do I need to do to become one, and why is it so important that I am a full stack? Why can't I just be a database engineer, or why can't I just be a data scientist? Well, you can, but it is also good to become a full stack. So basically, full stack engineering means you know a lot about everything. But that is a bit fortunately, you have multidisciplinary teams where you work in. That's just what I already explained. You work in teams with software engineers like me, with data scientists, but could also be people that are programming industrial computers, which are called PLCs, or you are working with the product owner, and also front-end developers, like you saw before. And you work in a team, and that is a real good start. Because the team is a good start for sharing your knowledge and acquiring also knowledge. So basically, most of the times you work in a team like this. We have a Scrum team, and you work in an agile way. You have your weekly or your bi-weekly sprints. You have your storyboards, and this is basically the setting you will find at our office, but in many offices right now. And yeah, these teams tend to be multidisciplinary. So what you will find, what you will see is that in order to deliver functionality, that's basically what we do it for. We want to deliver functionality to our customer, because the functionality delivers value to our customers. The value is in the functionality that we deliver to our customers. Functionality is always a stack. Well, you have a stack like this. Well, here's a typical stack for a simple application. So what you see here is that you have the front end. You can learn your React, Angular, JS, iOS, Android. You can have a developer for that. You can have a developer for your backend, develop a backend API using Node.js, Python, or Java or C#. And you can have a developer for your database. And you can have even have a separate operations guy, system operations guy. So this is typically how a team is originally set up. Only the problem lies here that if you want to deliver this nice piece of cake, this is a vertical slice, you have to go through all these slices. So you can't just say, oh, I deliver a database. Well, the customer doesn't have his cake yet. Oh, I just focus on the backend. He doesn't have his cake yet. So in order to get functionality, which is in the end all what it is about, end-to-end functionality, you have to go through all these vertical layers. It's a vertical slice. And to do that, yeah, you have to integrate all these layers. And separating these layers individually causes a lot of friction, because these are all people that are highly dependent on each other. And that's why it is a good thing to be and to know all these technologies. Well, that is, do you have to know everything? Well, basically, yes, you have to know everything. So that is hard. Eh? You can't know everything, can't you? Because there's so much, I mean, if even about React front-end development, there's so much to learn. A database like Oracle, you can be a specialist in that. You can, so how do you do that? So how can you know everything? Well, you can't. That's very simple. What we say is, hey, take a step back and try to develop yourself in a broad way. And this is what we call T-shaped, become T-shaped. It means that you know a little about everything. You know about ops also, it's like also system ops. Deploying service, you have to know that a little bit. But you'll have your specialist in your team too. But you should be able to do the ops as well. You may have your database specialist in your team, but you should also know a little bit of database querying and creating tables. You don't have to know everything about optimizing and indexing and everything you need to know about databases. So that's what I say, know a little about, become broad knowledge, have broad knowledge base. And actually it's linked to the last one, don't be an island. Don't say, oh, sorry guys, I just do backend development. I can't change the front end because I'm backend specialist. No, you have to be able to do front end as well, even if you are a backend specialist. But you don't have to be responsible for the entire design and the entire setup, but you have to be able to jump in when the situation asks for it. For instance, your colleague goes on holiday to Nepal. It happens. They go to Nepal 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Okay, that's quite a lot of time. Should we just stop our projects? Should we hire everyone doubled? No. If someone goes on a holiday, your team should be able to step in because they have this broad knowledge, even if it's about a very specialist subject. But to get your team to make sure that everybody gets T-shaped, you have to share your knowledge within your team. So plan tech sessions, Have front-end developers explain about what they do to you, even if you are a back-end developer. You as a back-end developer, explain what you're doing. Tell them so that they can step in. So, and the last one is actually the one. It's very important to review each other's work. Review is, you can review each other's work using Git and pull requests. By reviewing, you transfer knowledge. So what happens a lot is that I hear from someone, oh, sorry, but Henk-Jan, I'm not a backend specialist, so I can't review your work. I don't know anything about IoT, so I can't review your work. That is exactly a reason why you should review my work. Why? Because I can explain you what I'm doing. And by explaining you, I'm transferring knowledge to you, and you will become T-shaped. So you know a little bit about my work, and you will be able to step in when I go on holiday to Nepal. So let's go to the next. Yeah.
Jan, sorry to interrupt. We are running slowly out of time, so I will ask you to also wrap it up slowly.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. That's the most important topic. Actually, I would say learn also the operational stuff. Learn how to deploy your work to the cloud. Yeah. You have Kubernetes. You have Google Cloud, you have AWS. That is valuable stuff. So you have a lot to learn also about CI/CD. This is stuff, automated testing. Everybody has to know this stuff. It doesn't matter what background you have. Even if you are a database engineer, learn automated testing. The final point I'm going to make here, I'm going to wrap it up. We have a training for our young professionals. If you want to become a full stack developer, we will introduce you with a good training from 3 months, explaining you all these technologies. We explain how we build a software and how we do that in a multidisciplinary team. And that will give you a nice start when you join our YPP program. And we have a YPP program for data scientists, software engineering, and also for system engineering. So that is basically the last thought I would like to share with you. So yeah, if you are interested, please contact Untitled on our website. So,
thank you, Henk-Jan. Before we move on, I do want to bring in one of the questions from the audience, Martina, who is curious about the pathway to become a full stack developer, and if that is considered perhaps a more senior role, or could that be also a junior role? She has heard that the first job as a junior should be as a back-end or a front-end developer rather than a full-stack developer. Is that something that you see?
Yeah, that is the normal way of developing. As a junior, you are starting with one area because that is already new to you. So you have to first make that area your own. So that is normal way, but I would recommend absolutely, even if you are a junior, review each other's work because you will learn fast and share your tech, join the tech sessions within your team, ask for tech sessions that will progress you quickly to becoming a full stack developer.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Henk-Jan, and thank you. I think you you united people, or maybe divided people, because people seem to be a bit jealous of your pizza in the beginning. Thank you very much, both for the fun opening and, of course, for all the insights you shared. Next, we will be moving on. We've already, of course, covered front-end development, but now we'll be talking a bit more about front-end engineering and also software engineering. So I am welcoming Aya Al-Abrash, who is a front-end engineer at Backbase, but she is also a student of software engineering at European Leadership University. So today we'll be talking a little bit more both about her work and her studies, and also how she is able to combine what is a full-time job and studies. So thank you, Aya, for being here.
Thank you, Laura, as well, for the introduction. I'm really glad to be here.
So what we're actually going to do with this session is mix it up a little bit, and I'll be asking Aya some questions, kind of an interview style. But if you have questions for Aya, please, of course, also leave them in the Q&A, and I'll also ask your questions to Aya until we run out of time. So perhaps, Aya, we can just start with a little introduction in your own words. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do at Backbase, which I see in your background?
Yeah, actually, this is the background that I have, which is the picture from the office. And we have them because, they like we didn't want to miss our office in those times. But for me, in little words, I'm originally from Syria, and it's the country where I grew up and went to university as well to start my bachelor in information technology engineering. But due to some circumstances, I had to leave my country and my studies, and then I landed up in the Netherlands almost 3.5 years ago. But here I had a chance to start all over again. I start with a code school, which called Hack Your Future. And there I start to learn about web development. I did the course, I graduate, and then I had an opportunity to be in Backbase, which is actually my first job in the Netherlands. I can define myself as a social-oriented person. I like to enjoy my life, being with my family and cats. This is about myself. And what I do in Backbase, actually, I am a front-end engineer, as you titled me in the beginning. I'm working for retail banking in Amsterdam office. I'm doing basically what front-end do.
All right, so I will ask you a little bit to unpack it. And of course, it's great to hear that when you had to interrupt your studies and had to leave your country, Backbase has offered this opportunity for you, and you've actually been able to continue your passion in tech. So you are a front-end engineer. A little bit earlier, we spoke with a front-end developer. But what does your day-to-day look like? What does a regular work day or work week look like as a front-end engineer?
Actually, it's exciting every day. We made it exciting. I start just by making a cup of coffee, reading emails, participating in like million of meetings. And whatever time left, I do my work, my front-end work, and plus fixing a lot of bugs. Really, so there before I realized that my day is over. But front-end job is more about coding, doing the UI stuff, and this is how is my day look like. About working weeks, I don't know, but weekends seems awesome.
So how does a front-end engineer job, how is it different from a front-end developer?
Actually, if I would think about it, there is no difference, and it's the same as if you want to call a postman a mailbox expert, it's the same between like engineering and developer, because like front-end engineer is basically a developer. So we are developers, we code, which is the basic thing that we are doing. Plus, as an engineer, you need to learn about the whole product, the whole process, the system, how everything is working together, do more than code, like releases, integrations, write tests, and do like make the whole product as a unit working together. So yeah, I think this is the only difference between being an engineer and a developer.
Yeah, and I'm sure that also, of course, in a lot of companies, titles kind of differ. The actual responsibilities may not be the same in each company. So really do check out the descriptions always, of course, and also talk to people who are working there to see what kind of projects they are actually working on. Now you've made also the decision to become a software engineer with your studies. So why did you decide to become a software engineer?
Actually, I didn't decide to be a software engineer. Maybe front end chose me. But yeah, after working for 2 years now as a front end, for me, I like, as I said, to see the visual impact of what I'm doing on the product and see, like, look at my work from maybe a user perspective. This is why I choose front end as a starting as well. But yeah, as you said, I now want to learn more about being effective in multiple way and not just only like a front end. So that's why I want to study software engineering, to learn more about the software, how things are working together. And yeah, like engineering now is all matters.
Great, and I think it's of course always a great thing to invest in your learning and your development. So it's great to see you do that. So what do you actually currently like most about your job as a front-end engineer, or generally working at Backbase?
For me, choosing the environment that I will be working on is more important than the title or the job or the things I will be doing. And that's why I choose Backbase, because it's all about people, culture, and the things there, which actually the things there are make me love my job. I think this is the most important, but what I like the most is the flexibility of my job, and that's how I can study and combine like a full-time job. So I have the flexibility of the hours. It's sometimes a bit difficult with a lot of meetings, but yeah, at the end, I like Backbase, and working as front-end is really making me happy there, I would say.
That's great. Yeah, sometimes it's not only about, of course, the job you're doing, but also where you are doing that job. I'm glad to hear that you have a good, positive environment. You already said in the beginning that you are a social person. You said the environment at Backbase is really great. So how do you work together with other team members? Because I'm sure that you're doing a lot of coding already, but how much do you work together with other people?
Actually, working in a team is, especially my team, we are having a lot of fun, plus a lot of meetings, and also we have a lot of team ceremonies that make us bonded more as a team members, and plus making us closer to each other. As I said, we don't have that much of personal time coding, but we also prefer to work in programming sessions. And that actually benefits me as an Aya, because I am like still in my beginning years at work, so I will be having benefits of other people's experience. And yeah, that's why I like peer programming sessions. We do a lot of coding, we have a lot of meetings, as I said. Sometimes we have trainings, workshops, etc.
So it sounds like you're putting what Henk Jan was talking about into action, who was saying how important it is to review others' work, to share your work, something you do through the peer coding. So for the last couple minutes that we have in your session, I want to talk a bit more about your studies and combining your work with your studies. So you are studying software engineering at ELU. Why did you decide to study this program at ELU?
Actually, for me, as I said, I had to leave my country with my studies at my graduation year. But yeah, happily, I had a chance here to start. And why I choose ELU, I had the choice actually this year. And because now we are all in remote times, as you know, so I find out that European Leadership University is the best choice to study online along with having a full-time career. So for me, yeah, that would make it worthy. Plus the environment of ELU, like it's an international university, so you would have an opportunity to learn about a lot of things, a lot of culture, meet a lot of people from all over the world. Yeah, and understanding each other. And the most important part, like I can even talk about software and tech outside work with my colleagues, with my friends, and yeah, that's what matters.
That's great to hear. So how has the program been for you so far? Can you share maybe some things that you have worked on or learned so far?
So for me, I started like a couple of months ago, but so far so good. Everything is working amazing. The teachers are so helpful. Also my colleagues, like the students, the people there are so nice. We are trying to help each other the most. Plus every question we have, we get answers. We had workshops to learn more. Plus we are doing everything online. We are learning a lot by ourselves, like we need to search and search to get to know the answers. Connection is really good. We have a lot of platforms to connect with each other. So yeah, everything is working fine so far.
That's great to hear. One thing indeed that ELU works on is to make sure that people are learning in a community, whether that's through the workshops, through the instant communication platform, or also through the peer-to-peer projects. So how are you able to combine a full-time job, a demanding job, with also a demanding study program? What are some tactics you use there?
Don't ask. It's so hard, but yeah, for sure we are harder. I mean, it's all about managing your time, being able to be flexible on both sides, and then from working for almost 2 years now, I have learned that managing my time is the most important thing. So yeah, I find it, especially in the beginning, I found it very hard, but then yeah, for me, I wake up, I do my job, and then I attend my workshops, I study a bit in the evening, then in the weekends I had to do my homeworks. Yeah, this is how it works. So, but yeah, you know, it's like learning how to make a cake, and then the oven is really good, and then yeah, the good result will be very great. So this is like how you combine everything together and make it happen at the end.
And you already talked a bit about why you chose to study software engineering. But how do you think your studies now will help you with your career or your future career that you hope to have?
Actually, it's helping me already. Like I'm kind of person who like to apply everything I'm learning in everything in my life, like in a lot of ways. So everything I'm learning at university, I'm trying to apply it even for a small code or small pieces of my code at work, and try to make POCs, vice versa. For everything I learned and I'm learning from work, I'm trying to get to help me to solve my my homeworks and the things there. So yeah, and also plus learning at the university and completing my study, it will help me to get insights more on software engineering and to be able to understand the whole process working together. Yeah, so it will be at the end like you know, a cherry on top of my professional career.
Yeah, and it sounds like your company is also supporting your choice. So that's, of course, always nice to have as well. I think that might be the oven that you were also referring to in your cake metaphor. So we're coming towards the end of your session, end of your time. Thank you, Aya, so much. Maybe as a final question, I want to ask you, what advice do you want to give to anyone who is aspiring to become an engineer like you?
I would say keep hungry, but for learning and for knowledge. Keep foolish, so you had to learn about new stuff and new things every day. Encourage yourself by yourself. Do the things that you like the most, and yeah, keep rocking. And everything had to be I mean, to do anything you need to be patient. So yeah, we can do it.
Thanks so much, Aya. So thank you for your time and for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you as well, Lara.
Around, of course, to listen to some of the other speakers. Sure. Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce not one, but two speakers. In fact, we will have a session with Vincent Warning and Nick de Visser from PwC. So welcome, Vincent. Welcome, Nick. If you can turn on your cameras.
Hi.
And hi there. And they will be giving us career tips for data analysts and developers. So we've already heard a lot, of course, but we haven't heard too much about data analysts yet. So a lot of new knowledge still to be learned. Thank you. And the floor is yours, Vincent. Nick.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, I think from both our sides, we'll first do a introduction, give you a bit of an idea of how we started in our fields, what kind of background we have, and the different things that have helped us on the way. And then if there is any questions, of course, please feel free to ask them. So basically from my side, I'm Nick de Visser, currently 26. Started PwC 3 years ago as a data analyst after finishing my internship there for my master thesis. And the master thesis was part of the University of Amsterdam's data science program. And that was mainly focused on machine learning, parts of artificial intelligence, but also a lot of soft coding and business understanding to basically get you suited up to help new companies or existing companies transition to actually using and implementing new systems and developing new things for their day-to-day work. So that also includes a lot of automation, for example, and a lot of easy to handle and easy to start up coding setups. And basically for myself, as a background, I am quite knowledgeable in programming, mostly because of a little bit of the background from the university. So there's different coding courses, but I think the main thing that has helped me on the way is everything I did surrounding my university curriculum, which included a lot of hackathons and a lot of for example, Kaggle competitions or different coding challenges we either organized ourselves or we joined through different companies. And I think that's one of the main things that has helped me along the way to basically experience new things, but also to get out of my own comfort zone a bit, to experience new problems, to get also in different groups where you have both data analysts, but also business analysts or even HR personnel that are thinking about the same question with all kinds of different viewpoints. And I think mainly those challenges are also very interesting to see how other people approach a problem, which you can then also take into account when you yourself are trying to tackle a problem. But also when you are trying to explain a problem to someone else. Because if you can take into account the viewpoint of others, of course, it's a lot easier to get them on board on your solutions, for example, but also to explain why you think your solution might work, or to basically collaborate better to see if there is anything else you might be able to do. And I think the other thing that is also very helpful in that field is the self-learning. That was also mentioned in the previous session, where you basically never want to stop learning because there are new technologies and new inventions seen throughout the day, throughout the year. And basically to keep on track with that usually involves a lot of reading. But I'd suggest also just cherry picking what is important to you in terms of your personal experiences, but also your personal interests, and trying to figure out what do you want to get out of your reading materials, your learning materials, and how do you want to form your path towards the future. Because, for example, as a data analyst, you have a lot of different roads you can take, from being able to develop something from the bottom up or helping others with their development, but also being a bridge between the people asking for a solution and those delivering a solution, for example, to see whether or not something might be a good fit, and whether or not something could be fine-tuned, or you might have some ideas as to improve upon work that has already been done before you, which is one of the main things we also see, of course, with the amazing amount of open source codes and open source solutions out there, where people keep on building on what has already been done, and just helping one another to improve those resources, which you can always leverage throughout your career and throughout your problem solving. And I think in that regard also the internet is a massive help in that, where I think one of the main things is that you also want to ensure that you know how to search things in the right way, because being able to search isn't that difficult, but being able to search in the proper way, understanding your actual question, understanding what kind of solution you're looking for, and also understanding what is being provided on the internet. For example, the obvious things you might always hear is, well, Stack Overflow has everything. I think it certainly does, but it might not have everything you need, or the things that you are given through your searches might not be directly related to what you actually want to use. So I think one of the main things that you want to take into account is the proper question asking and the problem solution steps to basically get from what is my problem to do I think this might be a proper solution for me. And I think Vincent will tell you a bit more from his side now.
Yes, thank you, Nick. I have a little bit different career path. I'm not a technical or in-depth technical developer anymore, but I will tell you more about it. Studying in the 90s at the University of Applied Science, this years ago, at the time that the internet was becoming mainstream, and also got my attention. And what I did is, during my study, I did all kinds of small jobs to get myself more familiar with the internet technology, as a webmaster, web developer, and a web designer. Learned a lot and made many mistakes. I think it's a good thing for me, because it growed me. It helped me grow in what I am now. Started my professional tech career in 1999 as an IT consulting for a big IT firm, CMG. And the main job there was, of course, developing websites, as a web developer for the financial market, insurance companies, banks. Did it for a couple of years, and in 2003 I went into a complete different direction, because digital marketing was a thing then, and especially tech part got my attention. So I did learn all kinds of new things once again, and asked a lot around me, did my own research. And for me, it was very awkward, because digital marketing, I didn't know anything about it, and especially tech part, didn't know about it. And it was also completely out of my comfort zone. But I got an opportunity to work for Canon as a project manager online and hands-on developer. Was responsible for the digital marketing projects, built corporate websites, microsites, digital loyalty programs, e-commerce platforms. Well, I did that for a couple of years, and then I finally ended up here at PwC, which I work in, for 12.5 years, first as a project manager online for digital marketing and technology projects, working closely with developers and technical agencies. And for me, I think it's very fine to work with developers because I have a tech background. And now for several years, head of technology at the Experience Center within PwC, doing all kinds of digital transformation projects, working with an agile developer team and solving all kinds of digital problems or problems from companies. I think the key takeaway for me is that, you know, as what Nick already said, be ready to learn new stuff. I did it myself and still learning new stuff today. And depending on your learning style, there are all kinds of places where you can start. Nick said already, hackathons or e-learnings, podcasts, or Google's your best friend. Prepare to feel also awkward. I moved from something completely technical to more digital marketing kind of role. Ask many questions as you can, write down things you don't understand so you can research later. Would help me a lot. And of course, make mistakes, learn from it, and move on. I believe if you don't make any mistakes, you don't make any progress in your career. And if you are applying for a job, don't be afraid to apply for a job that doesn't quite match your technical needs. I think you have the ability to learn new things fast. And well, for me, switching from one another to another role brought me to unexpected places in my career. So I think these were my takeaways. Yeah, Lara, any questions?
Sorry, thank you both, Vincent, Nick. If you have questions for either of them, you can use the Q&A and let us know who your question is for, if it's targeted at a specific person. I know that there has been a lot of people in the audience who are actual reskillers. So you both actually have your degrees also, like you said, in the technical field or in the digital field.
Yeah.
But do you also see people around you, and this can be a question for either or both of you, do you see a lot of people around you who have maybe later in life chose to move towards tech, move to the digital world from another career, and can they also move into more senior roles like yourself?
Yeah. Well, if you look at my team, most of the team members in my team didn't study to become a developer. I have somebody who's studied aerospace, mechanical engineers, particular physics, and and then of course they were involved with technical stuff. But they choose become a full-time developer when they apply for a job, whether it's with PwC or before PwC. So I did it myself.
Yeah, and I think also one of the key things is to basically take into account that you can always learn to code. You can always learn to develop throughout your life. So yes, if there is a question about something that needs to be developed in a certain language, none of us might know it in our team, but then we choose some people to actually start learning that. And I think the most important thing is to have a basis you can build on, both like a bit of the mathematical side, the statistical side, and the programming side, because if you have that basis down, then you can learn anything and reskill at any time.
Thank you. A question for Vincent in this case. What experiences helped you move to a leadership role? What are the 3 things you recommend people doing to step up their career to a leadership role?
One is learning. That's one thing, and also open for how do you say that? New challenges. I think, because for me it was not I didn't had any ambition to become a head of technology, but somehow in my career path I like to be a linking pin between technology and internal external stakeholders, clients, that kind of things. So that helped me a lot to make translation of the needs into technical stuff. That helped me a lot to understand that and to build together with a team nice stuff.
This is a question, I think, for either of you. What do you think is more important when you're, for example, looking for new team members or recruiting? Do you think it's experience, portfolio, or the studies, the education they've done?
Both, I think. We're always looking for the sheep with the 5 legs, of course, but in my team, we are looking for a full stack developer, and we ask for a front end developer, a lot of experience in front end developer, the back end developer, and also DevOps. Well, that's too much, I guess. So I talk with my recruitment department, and now we focus more like front end developer, but experience, a combination of experience, of course, and education, of course. But I think for me, I'm more like for the practical side of it. So experience in combination. Let's put it that way.
All right, thank you. Another question is, what are some trends you're seeing with your customers or your clients? Do you see that they're running into any common or specific challenges, perhaps especially in this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think speaking from my own personal experience with our team, we are more and more focused on artificial intelligence, and then especially responsible AI, ethical AI. And I think a thing we are seeing a lot with our clients now is that they are taking the next big step to, okay, we want to actually develop solid AI solutions. We want to go from sometimes nothing to the highest of tech, and sometimes they already have their own department, but they have a lot of questions about how do we go about implementing our new solutions? How do we ensure that we are compliant with regulations? But I think also mainly, how do we ensure that we're going to be compliant with future regulations? Because there is not a lot of regulations about specifically AI solutions, for example, now. So they want to ensure that what they're doing will mainly be seen or be valid in the future as well.
Thanks, Nick. Vincent, is there anything you would like to add?
No, completely, totally, agree on that. Yeah, AI is for sure. Yeah.
So maybe I'll close it off with one final question. So since you've been talking so much about career tips for other people, I'm curious, is there something that both of you would still like to do or accomplish in your career? Okay. Surely many things, but what is one thing that you would like to maybe learn next?
Well, beats me. That's a good question. Need to be tech related or not?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Well, during this pandemic, my work-life balance can be better. So I'm only working now, making long hours. My work-life balance, I need to pay attention more like on that. Have a family as well. So
yeah, I think that's definitely a challenge that many people have been running into, of course, over the last year with the remote working and just having screens and work with us all the time. Nick, what is something you would still like to learn?
Yeah, I think also what Vincent said, but for me personally, because I'm very much not there yet, the more of the leadership and especially the coaching skills, that's my main focus at the moment, I think. So being able to basically coach those around me, but also coach those under me, the new joiners, to basically set up programs right, teach them the right ways, or at least the right ways in our eyes, to set up solutions, for example. So I think mainly a lot of coaching skills, because the better you are able to coach and explain, the better you also understand the matter yourself.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a great learning to close off with. So thank you to both of you so much. And that brings us to our final session of this summit. Last but not least, Vilco Berghoff, who has, I think, already been listening to quite some speakers today. So thank you, Vilco, for that as well. Hope you have been learning something yourself too. Vilco, I will pass the floor to you. If you have any questions to Vilco, I know that it's been a long sit. Maybe you've just joined, that's possible too. But do make sure to put your questions in the Q&A for Vilco.
So thank you, Laura. Hi all. It's an honor to be the last speaker on the event. And for you who are following all the presentations, I understand a lot of information has been thrown at you. So I'll try to have a laser focused journey in the next 20 minutes. And I hope to inspire you all for what I believe is the most beautiful discipline that exists, software engineering. I'm Vilco Berghoff, and today we're going to talk about software engineering as a career. So although I am 38 years old, I started my career besides my studies 20 years ago. And I started an internship and stayed for multiple years because I finally found an environment that kept challenging my skills. More on that later. And currently I'm CTO at Bcor. Although my role, I still devote roughly 50% of my time to development. And because I have a strong opinion that it is important to stay in touch with the current trends and use frameworks and technology. So, this is my next slide. Yes, there it goes. So we have two products at the Bcor, where I work for, FlightMap and RealMap. For both products, I'm responsible for the dev team, the process, and the technology. And our software is focusing on portfolio management, but is extremely good in using smart algorithms for predicting outcomes. And I mean, predicting the future, I mean, how cool is that? And when you think about software engineering, the main skill, of course, is coding. There are a lot of languages to choose from, on more that later. And when you start in IT, your code is almost likely going to run on some devices, hardware, or somewhere unknown in the cloud, or maybe on Arduino, just because you can make it work. And this is a photo from a while back. And how cool would it be if your code runs one day on another planet, like the Perseverance is full with software right now running around on Mars. So, or you can design your own droid. It's a design of me way back. It never made it beside the prototype stage, but it's pretty close to the Perseverance, right? Almost the same. So imagine placing your mobile in the droid and it's following you everywhere. It would be pretty cool, right? So, and this is exactly what IT is for me. And being inspired by some really cool ideas and feeling the passion to just build it. So for this talk, I've been thinking, well, I started once as a software engineer and I moved to true full stack developer and then to team lead and then to architect and then eventually now CTO. So where did it all start for me? And hang on, because funny enough, we are going to end up back in the present time sooner than later. So it all started for me in 1986. my first true love. My parents bought this awesome Commodore 64, and every time this bad boy was on, I was around to watch the screen for hours, following everything my dad was doing. And in this case, in the photo, my older nephew at the time was showing me around on the Commodore. And so years later, just like the kid in the photo, watching my dad closely building our own personal computers and installing software, I was in the family and neighborhood the guy or boy to go to when your PC was broken or doing weird things. And I fixed it, and it was the best feeling ever. So in 1997, I got this new cool software from someone at school, and I tried some programming languages before, but it never sticked. And I started learning Visual Basic. And at the same time, I mean, I heard it before this evening, not much later, the World Wide Web dropped, and we all know what happened next. So I, at the time, was really into things like the IRC chatting. And I saw some real cool chatbots that gave people a warm welcome when someone joined the channel, and were game masters, but you could play some games with chat options. And if someone was rude, people were kicked out of the chat. And I mean, this was 1997, remember? So I wanted to build a chatbot myself. So at that time, in 1997, I looked up the protocol online. It's probably the same thing you would do right now if you would build another new modern chatbot. And it was well documented. So I was still busy in Visual Basic at that point, and I started some basic TCP/IP communication with the server, finding out that communication with a server was nothing more than sending some text to a server and getting a text response back, and then parsing the text into usable variables. And without knowing at that moment that it was a very useful skill that would come back later on with HTTP requests and responses that are also text-based. And yeah. So, I mean, when I was doing this, I was using the F5 button a lot, and a lot of developers who use EDAs, which when they try to run the code or test their code, this is the moment when it's happening, if the application is going to crash or you have to fix something. So that was a very important moment in that time. And after a while, I was bored with the chatbot. I was more focusing on JavaScript, because at that time I was using Netscape more and more. And I bought this book from my own allowance, which this is literally the cover from 1997. And I mean, today it would be applicable. Of course, in JavaScript, there is a lot of more ecosystems, frameworks and stuff. But at that time, I was adding some really cool MIDI music to a website and flashy effects. I mean, who doesn't like 80 synthesizers on websites, right? It was amazing. So
Vilco, I'm so sorry
yeah?
to interrupt.
Yeah.
You are perfectly audible, but we are getting some background noise from your mic. I think it's going against your shirt, maybe.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe when you move your hands. But we can perfectly hear your story. No worries.
Okay.
But just wanted to give you a heads up.
Yeah, I will focus on that. So eventually, I started my internship and came across .NET. And it was not the company I worked for at that time in 2002 that had found this technology, but me convincing them that it would be the hot new thing and we should use it. So, you know, kind of what happens when you try to convince the people to use Python at this moment, because Python is awesome. But the fun fact is that Python, if you look at the first stable release, not all the frameworks and the ecosystem we have now, but the first stable release, it was in 1991, right? And C# was in 2002. Java first stable release was in 1996. JavaScript in 1995. So these languages have been around. And what important thing is that there is a lot of trends going on. Every 10 years, things switch. So it's important to learn a language, but don't be afraid that if you're learning it now, that it will disappear someday. And it's good to learn also different languages eventually over time. So if you look up, there are a lot of languages at this point. And if you would ask me, just like I said, should I learn them all? And I would say not at the same time, but eventually in your career, try to learn as much as possible. I think at this point, I can check half of this list off. But mainly I'm still on C# now. If Python or JavaScript get more a main stage in our company, we will switch. But at this point, this is not yet the case. So another important thing is to know that to keep in mind that the rule set on what possible is in a language is still dependent on the instructions of the CPU, of the memory, of what you send to the hard disk and back to the network. And even if it's a virtual machine or a Docker, these rules still apply. And that's why there are a lot of common grounds in the languages, although they have different interpretations, but they have a lot of common grounds because of those basics. So my conclusion is, so for me, the most important thing is that what kicked off my career was not what I knew at that point, because I had some experience in hobbying and stuff, but it was more the drive to learn more. I mean, it's said before tonight. And to experience this, you have to build, you have to imagine, you have to dream, you have to just do it, right? So back to the present day. So back to 2021. So probably when I was a kid and I thought about what I would be doing in the future, it would be probably thing like this. This is an example of the Microsoft HoloLens and someone using in a space, trying to figure this chair out. So, but in reality, what I now often do is, it's now digital, of course, and also because of COVID. But we start the day with, well, most of the time with coffee, but eventually with a task. And after starting, when you start, okay, these are the tasks on my board, you're going to look to figure out like, what did I do yesterday? Although there are different methods at this point, Scrum and DevOps and stuff. But what did I do yesterday for the things I want to do today? Is something blocking me? And if I'm going to pick something up, who I'm going to work with? And I mean, there has been a lot of talked about by the other speakers about the soft skills that are important. To work in a team is very important. But I think there's one skill that is very much spoken about, but I think it's one of the, besides coding, is one of the most important things as a software engineer. And I would like to focus on that. So, and that thing is analyzing. Analyzing is talked about a lot. And for this, I want to use an example. I mean, in COVID times, it is probably not an example that will happen fast. But let's say that your boss is sending you to Africa for the most amazing task ever. And it's helping a nature photographer with his job and analyze his data. Like I said, our job can be amazing if you wish it to be. So you are in the savannas and you and the photographer have your eyes on these two beautiful lions. And this is how a normal person would look at these lions. I mean, they're beautiful, they're laying there or doing their thing. And in a few seconds, I will change the screen and I will show you how most, maybe not all, but most developers would look at a picture like this. They would say, hey, we have two objects, we have two lions. They have manes, so their gender will probably be male. Some is roaring very loudly, so we have a function for that. Someone has some of the lions is laying, so he's in actual state. So two different types of executing behavior and stating behavior. And once you're looking around you and you start more like observing the things around you and the things you transfer to code, you're more going to look at the world in this way. You can call it object orientation. You also have the other side where behavior has the main flow and you're putting data into it, but analyzing is a good way in this. The other one in analyzing that happens a lot is I want to edit my photo. And the first question I would ask is, yeah, who is I? Well, I is a nature photographer. Okay, cool. So you're a nature photographer, you're professional to edit this photo, you're It needs to be a serious professional app. But why do we need to edit it now? I mean, we're in this beautiful savannah. Why now? And his answer is so that our boss is instant happy with us at this point. So the most fun thing is, a lot of people would say, well, I've seen this before. This is user stories. This is not new. And then while that is true, check what happens on the next slide. This is what also analyzing is. So you look at the story and you see in orange, you see the user. So developer would see, okay, this is the user, the nature photographer. And there's a function in there, an edit function, because he wants to edit. And a front-end developer would instantly think, well, how would that button look like on that app or in the browser? And then the data analyst would instantly say, oh, wait, but there's a photo. And how large are these photos? And can we store them in our cloud and that kind of stuff? So a little bit of information, and a user story can give you a lot of, if you analyze it correctly, a lot of information to work with. So yeah, do you have some final tips? Because we're now at the end. Always focus on deploying your code somewhere. Where you're going to deploy it, focus on that first. Then learn a lot about design patterns. I mean, a lot of things you're going to try to code, someone else has thought about a principle that you can reuse and reuse yourself, or to make a better architecture or create a clearer view. Another thing is, if you're more focused on Java or C#, it's very important, you maybe heard it before, is to focus on solid, to focus on the 5 principles. And another thing is code smells. You can Google it. There in any language you have code smells. Also, unit testing and component testing is a very important skill for a software engineer to have, not only to make the code work, but also that you're testing your work very good. And then let your thoughts always be inspired by others instead of trying to have the solo truth. And in working in a team, this is so very important. So that if someone says something and you're thinking, well, is that the correct way? Instead of starting arguing, starting to understand where he's coming from and trying to make in that way your software together better. So are there any questions at this point?
Thank you so much, Vilco. That definitely was a great presentation and very engaging. I surely did not expect to see lions on my screen, so I don't know about others. One question I have for you is, you focused on analytical thinking and analysis as a very important skill. How would people go about, as an aspiring software engineer, developing such a skill? If you are interested in learning C#, you will just go on Google and write, well, C# tutorial, right? Lessons. But for soft skills, it's a lot more blurry there. So how can one go about developing their soft skills as a junior, be it analysis or another soft skill?
So this is one of the hard things. I myself didn't really encountered really good books or stuff on the internet about abstract thinking, because if you would program every molecule or atom, it would be way too much. And there were sometimes, I mean, they were back in the day, they were busy with UML, and now they're no more with data modeling. You're seeing it back again. But that's always more the focus for the data analyst and not for the middle developer or the front end developer. And so most of the time it is, I think the funny thing is it comes back in requirements and in testing. So when you're starting the requirements and you try to the use case, so some user wants something, you try more to make it more, okay, how are we writing this out? And if you write it out, it's almost like a test script. So then you're already trying to make it more abstract. And then if you use that abstraction in your code, it's like a communication tool that the user understands, that the tester understands, and that the coder understands. And it's something I can talk probably hours about when I have a proper preparation for that. But it's one of the, that's what I was saying. Everybody's talking about analyzing and analytics, but there is not a lot of, I think, stuff easy to find.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that brings us to the end of our session and the end of our summit. Thank you, Vilco, and thank you, of course, to all of our other speakers on these 2 days. Thank you to our attendees for staying with us. whether you tuned in here on Zoom or on one of our live streams on YouTube or on LinkedIn. And thanks, of course, for all your questions. Do follow ELU and AI Agents for any future events. We surely hope to be back with another summit. And if you have ideas what could be a good summit topic, surely let us know as well. Or if you maybe want to participate in one as a speaker yourself. So thanks, everyone. You can see the links for AI Agents and ELU in the chat. A big thank you also to the organizing team and my co-host Christella today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening.